Okay, so I added the 2 electrical connectors to the sensors in the back of the transfer case. That was off the wire loom. That I just mounted it to the top of those 2 bolts. And then on the other side was the transmission electrical plug, which I guess goes to the TCM. Most of all the readings to the transmission, if not all of them, go through that one plug. And that's on the passenger side. It was very simple. It was about a half turn once the plug pushed in. Then I've got to finish tightening up these couple bolts here on both sides. That one's already tightened. Let me go to the other side, and then I will look at putting the torque converter on and flex plate for the engine, and then we'll get prepared to mount all this together. Okay, that's complete. I've got the transmission jack holding up the transmission at the pan, and now we have the transfer case brace on. Basically, I think I want to look at this one more time. So there are going to be some transmission cooler lines coming out down through here, which may be kind of hard to get my hands around the block once I have them installed. Although it looks like there's a lot of room below, especially once I move that jack underneath the transmission. That should allow for a lot of room. So maybe I'll look and see. Alright, so we're going to go with the conventional method of half a quart. So we're at 1,500. Okay. It takes a second for it to get to the passages. About 8 more to go. And 16th or so. Alright. Yeah, that's exactly half a quart. Give or take, I should say exactly. Very close to half a quart. I'll let that settle down there as much as possible. So we don't spill it all out. Now it should spin on. You don't need to force the torque converter on. You have to be patient, get it lined up with the keyway, and it'll eventually set in one click, I think, and then maybe 2 more usually as it goes on to each into the shaft. So just listen for the clicks, and like I said, just if you ever feel uncomfortable, just back off and remove it and simply try reinstalling it. Like I said, if there's any pressure from your aspect where it's not feeling like it's smooth, you just don't want to force it, because that transmission pump on the front will essentially blow a seal after you start it and realize, and then you're pouring transmission fluid out the bottom of it. And then if it's really not sitting right, once you try to bolt the housing bolts on from the transmission to the engine, then something will break, either the pump or you'll crack the bell housing. One, just spin it on. There we go, there's 2. Now we should stop leaking fluid. I leaked out about, I don't know, 2 ounces maybe. Okay, so I felt the second one. Keep spinning and turning. Find a little bit of pressure. There we go, there's the third one. There is this cover down here in the bottom of the bell housing of the transmission that can be removed, and you can kind of look at the clearance as well. You should be able to see if you can reach your fingers back there. I can't put my fingers in between some of the protrusions of the bell housing and the back side of the torque converter, so I don't feel it's going to go on anymore. I can get a few spins, but yeah, it's really tight, and it looks right too. So the bell housing should extend beyond the torque converter. Looks like a good inch or inch and a quarter. So basically, the one thing you want to look for is make sure your bell housing and torque converter are not level with each other, that they're not equal in the distance out, like they're not parallel. If they are, then it's definitely not seated on there all the way. Alright. So, I believe that on this side, over, you don't really need to do this at all, it's not necessary, but if you want to, this area, I believe, is where the starter comes in, and maybe, highly likely, I'm trying to look back there. Oh wait, no, it's lower than that. So it looks like the first bolt will probably be around here. That's where the starter goes. So I'll put a bolt hole here. Will it matter in the long run? I don't know, but it might give me a place to start off once I get the engine mounted. Alright, so other things to look for. And is anything in the way? Looks like this transmission, let me see what this is. Alright, so we've got our transmission wire harness, and then on the transmission wire harness there is a plastic grommet that you can put into the back of the transmission to hold the wire in there, looks like. So that needs to be done. Looks like it slides right in there. Yep, it does. And then here's, looks like one. So once I put this motor in this engine bay and get it situated where it's safe to sit there, at least with a jack underneath, then I need to work on my truck. The farm truck is currently somewhat out of commission. It drives, it's just a serpentine belt on it. Has started shredding from the fan side, like a little sliver of it. And once it did that, it kept going on. So I thought, okay, I'll put another belt on there. So I put a new belt on there, and I could see right away it's starting to happen again. So then I went out and bought a new tensioner for it and a new idler wheel, just in case the bearings are bad on that. And that hasn't resolved it. So I've got one more new belt sitting in my truck, and the only thing left that I could think of is going to be the water pump pulley or the crank pulley. Maybe that's got off balance. So one of those two are out of balance, and it's shimmying the shimmying it where it's, this has a, hope I got the right one. Okay, let's see. I hope I got the right one of these. These look pretty much identical, but I thought they could be reversed. Let me see. That one goes. They just wouldn't make those. I mean, do they actually sit like that? Okay, no, I think we're good. But I think that one goes on this side. Here and here. And then they may have had the same item numbers, I don't recall. So one thing I noticed different on this is that this has a connector. This one has a connector that has been, looks like disabled. I don't know what you want to call it. It's not there where you can put the air vacuum into it. This one has like a vacuum hose adapter on the left side. The right side doesn't. Now the right side was definitely off my vehicle. That's the one I bought. So at the very least, I don't have to worry about the vacuum that could go into that, and or there's a vacuum line that will plug into that in the future, and I hopefully won't forget about that. I don't recall it, but that does not mean a whole lot. And then I know they're basically identical, except I know this one goes on that side because I know that was the one that got stolen. I remember that. Everything else on the left side got stolen. Go see what size these bolt heads are. I think about probably 15, I would guess. And I believe my 15 may be underneath the car right now. Let's see. That. What we got on here? My 15? Yeah, it's my 15 right here. Okay. Alright, tighten those down. Anytime I replace a bolt, I always use the highest strength bolt I can find, which is usually a 10.9 in the automotive section. But there are the 8.8 or some other strength too. But irregardless, I always use the higher strength bolts. So I need to find a torque amount for those, or at least get them a whole lot more snug than what they are. And then after this, I think we'll do, well, you know what? Now looking at this, the way that these are sitting, I really think I don't need to remove those engine mounts that sit on here to the block. I don't know. I usually call these engine mounts. I don't know what I should call the other component that's on the actual mount, on the actual engine itself. But who knows? All right. Alright, I'll see if I can go ahead and find some torque specs on that. I mean, why not? I'm already at this point. There's no reason to do it later on because it'll be too difficult to reach. So, I'll go ahead and do that. Let's see. That looks like the engine sits so high up in there on this mount. So those mounts, look how high they are on the frame. And then I feel like they look so high up on the block. Looks like it sits really high. So that comes to about the center of the flywheel. So this comes to about the center of the flywheel. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't know how it could be wrong, but it just looks strange to me. Okay. We're going to find the torque settings on that. I'll pause this because I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'll use the all data information. I do have the engine flywheel installation. I actually have the install tool. I'm wondering if I left it at the store though. I think I did. Not that it's probably necessary. We'll see. But I do have one of those. And I thought I got it ready today at the store, but I don't know if I remember to bring it with the rest of my stuff. Alright, so I'll go and pause this for now.